All right, welcome back. It seems like the Moscow Police Department is covering up Jack Showalters' involvement in the murders. Jack Showalter is picked up on a security camera threatening the life of Madison Mogen on November 13, 2022, the night Madison Mogen was murdered. The Moscow Police Department, working with Dateline NBC, removed this specific threat of premeditated murder from their documentary. Now I've created a special program just for this case to remove the noise and isolate voices. It's called SHERLOC, which stands for Speech Hearing Evidence Restoration Learning and Observation Classification Kit. And it's going to allow us to remove all the noise in the security video camera footage. In this video, we will also analyze the voice of Jack Showalter to see if he's one of the unknown males present when a female screams that she was stabbed at 2:27 a.m. that's picked up on the 1112 security video camera footage. Now the sounds on the 1112 security video camera footage are very controversial. People have said they're fake. People have said they were added. But I'm going to end that discussion here right now, once and for all. At 2:42 a.m. in about 28 seconds, a scream is picked up on both the Linda Lane camera and the 1112 King Road security camera video footage. Check it out. So those sounds are also picked up over here. So as you see, this video was put up 2 years ago, and this is kind of new. The new Freedom of Information Act, 1112, security video camera footage. And as you see, the sounds match up. So anybody who says that they were added or it's some whatever theory they have, it's over. The screams are picked up on both cameras. That's it. End of discussion. These sounds are real. Now we can move on. What I'm about to show you is knowledge of premeditated murder in the Idaho4 case. First, I'll play the original. Before one of the victims says, "What did you say to Adam?" Jack Showalter threatens her life. He says, "We're going to get you for this, Maddie," or "They're going to get you for this, Maddie, and you're going to die." "We're going to get you for this, Maddie, and you're going to die."
That Saturday night, Ethan and Xana were attending a party at the nearby Sigma Chi fraternity. Kaylee and Maddie went to hang out at the Corner Club in downtown Moscow.
So it's at this part over here where they say, where they walk. "What did you say to Adam?" But there's no, "We're going to get you for this, Maddie, and you're going to die." So I've been working on the actual real timeline because they also deleted an event that happened at the Grub Truck. Let me play the real timeline.
You're looking at enhanced video of the confrontation between two of the University of Idaho murder victims and another student at a food truck. The time, 1:30 a.m., just hours before the murders. Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogen stopped for mac and cheese after partying at a nearby bar.
Everybody seemed like in good spirits, nothing seemed off. And then they start interacting with a couple other people. They're waiting for their food.
Now look at this. Video shows Madison pointing at a man in a hoodie who appeared to have followed them to the truck.
That's the same guy right there that just threatened the life of Madison Mogen.
We had the video and audio from the clip enhanced, and you can hear her using an expletive. Blank you, mister, she says. Police have already announced they have cleared the young man in the hoodie. Audio engineer Anthony Nelson enhanced the audio for Inside Edition. What do you hear in that instant?
She says, you.
So, was there an argument? If so, what was it about?
So the Moscow Police Department worked with NBC Dateline to remove this incident from their timeline. The Moscow Police Department doesn't want you to know that there was an argument at the Grub Truck. And they don't want you to know that Jack Showalters caught on camera threatening the life of Madison Mogen. Check it out.
If so, what was it about?
At precisely 1:49 a.m., one of the women called for a young fraternity member who'd been assigned to help drive home upperclassmen and women to make sure they arrived safely. A ride of little more than a mile.
See, they left out the incident at the Grub Truck, and they also left out the part where Jack Showalter threatened the life of Madison Mogen. Like I said, on the left is the real one, and on the right is the Dateline. All they put in was, what did you say to Adam? That's how wicked the Moscow Police Department and NBC Dateline are. That they would have knowledge of premeditated murder, and they just edit it out. Just delete it, clip it like it never happened. But this is the real timeline, and this is what you need to understand. Because you'll never understand the case if you don't understand the real timeline. And whether you think Bryan Kohberger is innocent or guilty, no matter what, the night always starts with Jack Showalter threatening the life of Madison Mogen. And he has knowledge of premeditated murder. So someone needs to call Inside Edition, let them know that we figured out what the argument was about. Jack Showalter was caught on camera threatening the life of Madison Mogen, and he has knowledge of premeditated murder. What this means is that Jack Showalter had knowledge that multiple people were going to try to kill Madison Mogen the night of November 13th, 2022. Not one person, but multiple, and it proves that Bryan Kohberger didn't do this crime alone if you think he's guilty. And if you think he's not guilty, well, who's the number one suspect on your list? Now, I'm going to play the rest of the Dateline clip. As you can see, they left out this argument that I put into the timeline. They want you to believe that nothing happened at the Grub Truck.
If so, what was it about?
At precisely 1:49 a.m.
See, this right here is a Dateline. They didn't put that argument in their segment. I used the Inside Edition and put that in there to show you that that's the real timeline. But Dateline, working with the Moscow Police Department, try to erase it from existence like it never happened. Look.
One of the women called for a young fraternity member who'd been assigned to help drive home upperclassmen and women to make sure they arrived safely. A ride of little more than a mile. They got to the house on King Road at 1:56 a.m. Roommates Bethany and Dylan also got home around 2. Xana and her boyfriend Ethan would return shortly. And starting at 2:26 a.m., Kaylee and Maddie made a total of 10 phone calls to Kaylee's former boyfriend.
Now, after this interaction at the Grub Truck, Jack Showalter claims that he went home. Check it out.
Ever since like we chose about it, I thought it was order 85. Thank you.
Can I do the big burrito? But I'm gonna be really quick on some cheese sauce. Can I get it without the chipotle slaw?
Yeah.
And there goes Jack.
Yes, you absolutely can.
It looks like he pointed at them and said something again.
Yes.
Probably the third threat right here. He lifts his arm. This is the third right there. See it? This guy right here shakes his head. He knows, this guy knows what happened just now. Somebody should go talk to this big fat guy. Because he was pointing at them and he's standing there with Jack Showalter. So anybody who's hanging out with Jack Showalter is suspect. They're suspect right now.
Law.
Yes, yes, you absolutely
And
can.
then without the
Pointed at them and acknowledged them. Probably threatened her life one more time. So he's probably caught on camera at least 3 times threatening the life of Madison Morgan. And right after this incident,
At precisely 1:49 a.m., one of the women called for a young fraternity member who'd been assigned to help drive home upperclassmen and women to make sure they arrived safely. A ride of little more than a mile.
see, I showed you the real timeline where Jack Showalter pointed at them and said something again. NBC Dateline and the Moscow Police Department, again, they want us to believe that it was just a quiet night out in Moscow.
They got to the house on King Road at 1:56 a.m. Roommates Bethany and Dylan also got home around 2. Xana and her boyfriend, Ethan, would return shortly. And starting at 2:26 a.m., Kaylee and Maddie made a total of 10 phone calls to Kaylee's former boyfriend.
Now, this is when the controversial screams begin to happen. And it's very controversial because the Moscow Police Department won't release the audio prior to 2:25 a.m. For example, if you file a Freedom of Information Act request, you'll get nothing but silence. And this is an important time because this is when 2 of the victims got dropped off at home. Nobody knows what they're going into or what is picked up on these cameras prior to this. Now, the Moscow Police Department says that there's no sound there. But as you see, at 2:27 a.m., there's no sound there. But there is sound over here. So that's where I came in and created a special program just for this case. And its job was to remove the noise in the security video camera footage on the 1112 King Road camera. So I named it Sherlock, which stands for Speech, Hearing, Evidence, Restoration, Learning, Observation, and Classification Kit. And it just that. Remove all the noise so we can clearly hear what's going on, if somebody's getting attacked, and who is getting attacked. We hear one of the victims' names being called. So I use the Sherlock program to remove the noise in Jack Showalters' police interview. Check it out. This is the original one with the car noise in the back.
I'm just friends with Maddie. I was with her at the bar that night.
And this is the one with the noise removed.
I'm just friends with Maddie. I was with her at the bar that night.
Now I want to compare it to one of the unknown males that's heard screaming during the 2:25 a.m. attack.
I'm just friends with Maddie. I was with her at the bar that night.
That male right there screaming, "Oh my God," and then something else. Is that Jack Showalters' voice?
I'm just friends with Maddie. I was with her at the bar that night.
Sounds like Jack Showalter. But he said he went home like 200 miles away right after this, right after threatening the life of Madison Morgan. And not only that, we hear the victim's name being called while she's probably getting attacked. Those attacks can be heard on those multiple cameras. That attack is picked up all the way over here, too. So is that Jack Showalter's voice?
I'm just friends with Maddie. I was with her at the bar that night.
And it's very possible that these sounds that we hear over here could be at least two of the victims being killed. It's possible that this crime took place over two different time frames within the night. But without a doubt, there was multiple males at 2:25 a.m. attacking females. It's picked up on the cameras. This is what nobody in true crime wants to talk about. They want to say it's the sounds were added or they're fake. They're not. Those sounds are there. That's a female screaming for her life, possibly getting killed. So Bryan Kohberger tried to say four other people were involved in this crime as alternate perpetrators, and one of them is dead. Check this out. This is Steve Conclaves, Kaylee's father, speaking outside the court when Bryan Kohberger pled guilty to the crime. Now, it's also worth noting that the judge did not give him the right to use an alternate perpetrator theory, thus denying the right to defend himself.
Judge could hear one thought from you that he should remember. What is it?
He's going to own this. He's going to inherit what Thompson did, and he's the only one that can fix it. He's the only one who can make it right. He needs to protect those other surviving victims and make this person say that they had nothing to do with it. He did it solely. He did it all on his own, and nobody else was responsible. And then we won't keep having these supporters always saying that he got set up. We know what he's planning on doing. Somebody died, a vet died, and he's going to try to say that, put the blame on that person. So he's not going to take accountability.
So as you see, he said that a vet died and that Bryan Kohberger was going to try to put the blame on that vet. Now, the vet didn't just die of old age, die of natural causes, or die in an accident. The vet was murdered by the Moscow Police Department SWAT team. That vet's name was Brent Lee Kopacka. Now, Brent Lee Kopacka was the fourth person that Bryan Kohberger tried to say was responsible for this crime. And he was the fourth person in this case, the fourth individual. And he seen one of the victims at a store and went to go talk to her, but turned around. But the event was captured on surveillance, and he also gave his DNA, gave a DNA sample. So what are the chances of Brent Lee Kopacka and Bryan Kohberger having a connection, and also Jack Showalter? Jack Showalter is forever going to be connected with Bryan Kohberger because he's caught on camera threatening the life of Madison Logan. And like I said, you have two engineers, me, and you have this guy before.
Audio engineer Anthony Nelson enhanced the audio for Inside Edition. What do you hear in that instant?
She says, you.
So, was there an argument? If so, what was it about?
You see? And this video to the left didn't come out. This came out last, and the Grub Truck came out first. The Grub Truck video came out first, and then this one came out last. I believe this one came out around December 15th, 2 weeks before I think Bryan Kohberger was arrested for the crime. And then everybody forgot about this. And recently I went through it and I found out that he said, and you're going to die. So Bryan Kohberger tried to say four other people were involved in this crime, and one of them died. And there's a saying, dead men don't answer questions. So that leaves three other males. Well, the court docs say they live within walking distance of the crime scene and were familiar with the victim's home from prior social events. Jack Showalter lived right down the block from the crime scene.
Okay, you just drove home today?
Yeah, it just seemed like everyone else in my house and a lot of the community was leaving, and I do live right down the road, so it kind of seems unsettling being around.
So he lives right down the block from the crime scene. So that's 2 down and 2 more to go. The only other 2 males that fit the profile and who were part of the cleanup crew was Lyndon Beck and Hunter Johnson. Lyndon Beck's confession changes everything. Lyndon Beck was there 3 hours before he called Hunter Johnson and that whole staged 911 call. So all these 4 people are somehow connected to this crime with Bryan Kohberger. Now, Lyndon Beck and Hunter Johnson are the reason for the 8-hour delay in the Idaho4 case, because it wasn't until Hunter Johnson got to the house that they decided to call 911. But Lyndon Beck confessed to being up at 9 o'clock and being summoned over to the house and being there for 3 hours before 911 was called.
And then he woke up in the morning, I'd say probably around 9. Maybe earlier, I'm not really sure. I didn't sleep much.
Yeah.
But, and then came into the room.
Okay.
And, then I think, and, she sounded pretty scared. She said there was somebody in her house last night. They ran downstairs and locked themselves in a room because she saw somebody in her house and she only sees nose in his chin or something like that.
Okay.
And then she was freaking out. She wanted us to go over there, so we got her stuff and went over there.
The next morning, Emily says Dylan, one of the surviving roommates, called her concerned, asking her and Hunter to come over. In the documentary, you tell the story of really not feeling alarmed when Dylan called you.
I joked around with her on the phone. You know, it's something you would never expect.
It's November, so I had shorts on, slides on. I wasn't prepared to obviously stay there. I was just going over to check, see what's going on. I would say as soon as you get there, you know something's wrong.
Hunter was the first person to arrive to King Road to discover what happened. Their friend Josie Lauteran, who was also there, describing the moments in the docuseries.
As soon as I stepped in the house, I was like, oh, something is so not right. You could feel it almost. Hunter was ahead of me and Emily and immediately was pushed out. And Hunter was like, get out, somebody call 911.
You hear Hunter on the 911 call telling the girls there was an unconscious person protecting them from the graphic details.
Is she breathing?
No. I don't think there's going to ever be any justice.
I don't think Hunter Johnson ever knew that the Freedom of Information Act would show that Lyndon Beck confessed to waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning and going over there. Then we got the situation of the Moscow Police Department hiding the audio prior to 2:25 a.m. and also covering up Jack Showalters' involvement in this case. So all these things are a factor when you consider the Idaho4 case. Yeah, I hear a girl saying she was stabbed. And challenge anybody out there in the audio field to tell me what that female is saying right there and what's going on from 2:25 a.m. to 2:50. It's possible that the crimes took place at 2 different time periods. Why would Lyndon Beck and Hunter Johnson be at the house for 3 hours before calling 911? Why would they clean up for Bryan Kohberger? Well, they wouldn't clean up for Bryan Kohberger. They clean up for themselves, though, for their involvement in the crime. So the Moscow Police Department also wants you to believe that the victims died in their sleep, but that's not the case. Check out what they did with Dateline NBC.
We had this animation built. It's based on the recollections of former residents and court records, police affidavits, real estate, and social media images of the house. And we've also spoken to sources close to the investigation who gave us their theories of what happened. Sometime after 4:07 a.m., the killer entered the house on the second floor through an unlocked sliding kitchen door and went quickly and directly upstairs to Maddie Mogan's bedroom. Sources close to the investigation have told us that is one of the reasons they believe Maddie was the killer's target. But almost certainly to the killer's surprise, he discovered that Maddie was not alone. Kaylee was sleeping in the same bed.
Something happened.
Well, that's not really what happened. Let's see what the eyewitnesses actually have to say about that day. This is Dylan Mortensen outside talking to the police.
I was in the main room, I heard them dancing and laughing. Kaylee went upstairs and she screamed because someone was in the room and she ran downstairs. And I kept calling her name and she wouldn't answer. And then I saw the guy. I just locked the door and I ran downstairs, but we don't know what's going on.
So one of the victims wasn't asleep. Check it out.
All I heard was I heard go upstairs. Like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now because she's going upstairs.
You heard who go upstairs?
Kaylee and the dog Murphy.
So she said she heard the victim go upstairs with a dog, like, hey, good night. Good night, Kaylee. And just walk upstairs.
And upstairs to the very top?
Yeah, that's where her room is.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I heard her walking up. I heard her scream, and she ran downstairs because she saw someone. That's what I'm pretty sure she said. Someone's here, and she screamed and just ran downstairs. And I called for her name, but I jumped up and locked my door because I was so scared. And then in the
So, as you see there, she said one of the victims was awake. Let's go back to the timeline and see what Dateline and the Moscow Police Department want us to believe.
We had this animation built. It's based on the recollections of former residents and court records, police affidavits, real estate, and social media images of the house. And we've also spoken to sources close to the investigation who gave us their theories of what happened. Sometime after 4:07 a.m., the killer entered the house on the second floor through an unlocked sliding kitchen door and went quickly and directly upstairs to Maddie Mogan's bedroom. Sources close to the investigation have told us that is one of the reasons they believe Maddie was the killer's target. But almost certainly to the killer's surprise, he discovered that Maddie was not alone. Kaylee was sleeping in the same bed.
Something happened that hadn't been planned on.
The killer attacked anyway. There was a struggle. It was noisy. Multiple sources close to the investigation speculate that Xana, downstairs in the second floor kitchen on TikTok, heard thumping and went to investigate. The killer must have heard this, our sources said, and turned his attention away from Maddie and Kaylee and began chasing Xana.
And in that kind of chaos...
Chasing Xana? Did anybody hear Xana's name?
I was in the main room, I heard them dancing and laughing. Kaylee went upstairs and she screamed because someone was in the room and she ran downstairs. And I kept calling her name and she wouldn't answer. And then I saw the guy. I just locked the door and I ran downstairs, but we don't know what's going on.
Did anybody hear Xana's name?
All I heard was I heard go upstairs. Like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now because she's going upstairs.
You heard who go upstairs?
Kaylee and the dog Murphy.
And upstairs to the very top?
Yeah, that's where her room is.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I heard her walking up. I heard her scream, and she ran downstairs because she saw someone. That's what I'm pretty sure she said. Someone's here, and she screamed and just ran downstairs.
At 4:17 a.m. on the 1112 King Road security camera footage, you could hear a female say, "Oh my God, there's somebody here," and then run down the stairs. Right there, she says, "Oh my God, there's somebody here." One of the victims was not attacked in the room, like they said on the documentary. They actually ran down the stairs, and one of them was not attacked in the bedroom. One of them was attacked either in the living room or the stairs. Dylan Mortensen confesses that Kaylee actually ran downstairs and did not get attacked in the room. Check it out.
So, you hear Kaylee upstairs, she's dancing, playing with the dog, normal kind of thing, probably.
Yeah.
And then she says, "There's someone here."
Yeah, when she goes, I can hear her go upstairs, and then I think she's in her room, and she says that someone's here, and I can tell she's scared, and she runs downstairs.
Where do you think she ran?
I don't know if she made it past the stairs,
okay,
or if it was in the living room.
Okay.
So that's what we hear on the timeline. We do hear somebody say, "Oh my God, there's somebody here." We hear a male voice. And then running down the stairs. So the Moscow Police Department wants everyone to believe that they died in their sleep because that makes it seem like one person did the crime. So this little interaction changes everything about the case. The Moscow Police Department wants you to believe that there was no altercation at the Grub Truck. Well, we know that's a lie. We got Jack Showalter on camera threatening the life of Madison Mogen. And we have him arguing at the Grub Truck with Madison Mogen. And not only that, you have two different sound engineers that have come to the same conclusion.
Audio engineer Anthony Nelson enhanced the audio for Inside Edition. What do you hear in that instant?
She says, "You."
So, was there an argument? If so, what was it about?
So now I got a question for the people who think Bryan Kohberger is innocent. If you think he's innocent, who's your number one suspect on the list? And if you think he's guilty, do you think that Bryan Kohberger and Jack Showalter are friends? Because what are the chances that Jack Showalter threatens the life of Madison Mogen and then Bryan Kohberger committed the crime?